In this video, we are going to learn communications between monolithic to microservice architectures. When we are working with the monolithic applications, we said that communication in monolithic applications are inter-process communication. So that means it is working on single process that invoke one to another by using method calls. You just create class and call the method inside of the target module, all running the same process. This communication gives very simple but at the same time components are highly coupled with each other and hard to separate and scale independently. One of the biggest challenges when moving to microservice based application is changing the communication mechanism, because microservices are distributed and microservices communicate with each other by inter-service communication on network level. Each microservice has its own instance and processes. Therefore, services must interact using an inter-service communication protocols like HTTP, gRPC or message broker AMQP protocols. Since microservices are complex structure into independently developed and deployed services, we should be careful when considering communication types and manage them into the design phases. For that reason, when designing microservices, we should isolate the business into microservices as much as possible. And we should use asynchronous communication between the internal microservices as much as possible. But of course, in some cases, we have to use synchronous communication. In order to provide better synchronous communications, we should create well-defined APIs for inter-service communications. These communications comes from monolithic inter-process method calls so that we convert these operations as a fine-grained APIs in microservices. We can group some operations and expose aggregated APIs that cover several calls from multiple sources. That means we should not expose APIs for every method calls from monolithic application when moving to microservices. We should optimize synchronous communication by aggregating operations. Since microservices are distributed systems, they must communicate over inter-process protocols like HTTP, AMQP, gRPC and so on. This is one of the biggest changing paradigm when moving monolithic to microservices. As you remember that one of the important microservice characteristics from Martin Fowler article is smart endpoints and dump frames. According to this characteristic, microservices lose the coupling and expose endpoints with RESTful APIs in order to provide end-to-end use cases. Every microservices decouple their business logic inside, but end-to-end use cases can be done with well-defined APIs between microservices. So before we design our microservice communication, we should understand about the communication styles. It is possible to classify them in two axes. The first step is to define communication protocol is synchronous or asynchronous communication. Synchronous communication with using the HTTP request response with resource APIs, and asynchronous communication with using the message broker event buses. So we are going to elaborate synchronous and asynchronous communication in the next video.